with high praises of Kobe Bryant, who became the first NBA player to have 2 jerseys retired by the same team last night at the Staples Center. 20 years with the purple and gold, playing in 7 finals and earning 5 rings. Stephen A., is Kobe the closest thing to his airness on the court?
I think so. I mean, just because the style mirrors it and what have you. Now, he's never going to get the edge over MJ in my mind, and I've had this conversation with Kobe to his face. The blowout loss to the Pistons in 5 games in the NBA Finals where they got annihilated. The blowout 39-point loss in the Game 6 closeout against the Boston Celtics in those finals. That resonated with me as well because I never saw that happen on the world's biggest stage for Michaeal Jordan. That's where it resonates with me. Now, Kobe is that guy. He's that guy with that killer instinct. He had that kind of game. He had that kind of assassin mentality, and he was merciless in terms of demoralizing you and cutting your throat out. But in the end, he doesn't eclipse Michaeal. But is he the closest? Yeah, because everything he did was in an effort to mirror or eclipse what Michaeal Jordan had done. Michaeal Jordan was the target that Kobe was aiming for. He was unapologetic about it in every way, to everyone, including Michaeal Jordan. And that's why it's all right to make those comparisons.
Yeah, Kobe Bryant is the closest to Michaeal in terms of the actual game, of course, and that was Steve Kerr's point. And by the way, he modeled this whole game on Michaeal Jordan. His speech, his dress, his goal for championships, everything was modeled on Jordan trying to be a better version of the original. And that's an incredible task when you consider that the original was also clearly the greatest player who ever lived and usually recognized as the greatest athlete in the history of American team sports and really the greatest of all time on planet Earth. Like, if that's you happen to play that guy's position, and you try to be that, the greatest ever, any sport, and you try to be that only better than the original, who else would take on that task, right? But Kobe tried it and came extremely close. For those who want to argue that Kobe, well, if they played in a different era, if only he hadn't played with Shaq, no. When you look at it and you dig and you start to adjust for errors and you start to account for everything, the most advanced analytics, the eyeball test, the measure in terms of championships, if you talk to teammates who they shared, by the way, or contemporaries rather, who were played with Kobe and watched Jordan and everything, they will all tell you Jordan was a little bit better. Jordan's the greatest ever. But Kobe came, as I said, perilously close. I think we shouldn't conflate the idea on the one hand of being the most like someone with, on the other hand, having as much value as someone. So Kobe is most like Jordan in terms of his game, his size, the position, everything. But LeBron is closest to Jordan in terms of value. On the all-time list, Jordan's 1, and the next time you get to a non-big man, although at LeBron's size, you can almost argue he doesn't play like a big man, but he is like Karl Malone's size, right? But the next time you get to a non-back-to-the-basket rim defender with post moves, big, however you want to define that, the name is going to be LeBron. And then after that, you will get to either Magic, Bird, or Kobe. So Kerr's absolutely right. Kobe most like Jordan, LeBron closest to Jordan in terms of value.
What do you mean in terms of value? And when you say LeBron eclipses Jordan, I'm sorry, LeBron eclipses Kobe. Eclipses Kobe, I meant. I'm sorry. What do you mean by that? What do you mean eclipses him in value? What are you talking about?
He's going to be higher on the all-time list. If you had to pick one or the other, you're starting a team, you're going to take LeBron. As you point out, a lot of that has to do with LeBron's superior size, which is true. He's 6'8", 250 plus. But it also has to do with the efficiency in scoring. LeBron's an incredibly efficient scorer. And also the defense, because LeBron defense improved throughout his career to the point where he could guard effectively all 5 positions. He's almost like a Dennis Rodman kind of figure at his height in terms of his defensive value. And in addition to all that, he has the passing game of a Magic or a Bird, the kind of passing game, the genius for passing that Kobe doesn't have. So I'm talking about in value, the one who brings you the most wins or the closest to a championship all by himself, the one who fits in best on the most different kinds of team, the one who's going to be ranked higher on the all-time list. Value. Jordan's 1, then the question is, where does everyone else fit in? LeBron is going to end his career as the first non-big you mention after Jordan, and Kobe will fit in with Bird and Magic somewhere below that.
Well, the reason why I asked the question is because I think that while you're right, we need to understand why. There's a lack of appreciation for Kobe in this respect. Kobe played with Shaq, so because 3 of those rings came with Shaq, that's going to be held against Kobe to some degree, which almost justifies why he had this insatiable appetite to prove himself away from Shaquille O'Neal. He didn't want to pair with him for the rest of his career because he didn't want to be, identified with just him. He wanted to establish his own aura of invincibility and what have you. But the other thing also is that we don't take into account what LeBron did. LeBron didn't win a title until he joined Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. He didn't win a third title until he joined Kyrie Irving and made sure he got Kevin Love to come from Minnesota as well. And so when we pay attention to those kind of things, as great as LeBron is, we also act too much like it's just LeBron, LeBron, LeBron. But LeBron was very adroit, very skilled, very smart in who he decided to join forces with. And that had a lot to do with the success that he ultimately was reaped. Now, he doesn't deserve to be excoriated for that because it's a team game and you can't win by yourself. But he went about the business. He didn't inherit anything. He put himself in a position as a free agent where he went to in Miami. He came back to a situation in Cleveland that was conducive to winning. He stayed within the Eastern Conference throughout his career because it's been considerably weaker than the West for pretty much the last decade. We've got to pay attention to all of that too, whereas Michael Jordan had Pippen and had to groom and elevate Pippen. Mr. Migraine Headache at the time before he ultimately elevated himself into being one of the 50 all-time greatest players and a six-time champion along with Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan could not have won without him. And in Kobe's case, you got Pau Gasol that came on board. You still had Andrew Bynum, Lamar Odom, and all of those other guys. But LeBron had his crew of individuals as well, and it proved to be very, very beneficial to him. But we don't bring that up nearly as much as we bring it up with Kobe.
Do you penalize LeBron for that, though, or do you look at Kobe's good fortune? Because as much as Kobe had to play 1A to Shaq's 1, which in a sense is unfair to him, Kobe was born into an NBA situation where essentially by the time he became an all-star player, he had Phil Jackson as a coach and Shaquille O'Neal in his absolute prime as a teammate. Like, give LeBron Phil Jackson and Shaquille O'Neal, and he ain't going anywhere, especially in the LA market. Could you imagine? Then he wouldn't have to go looking for super teams because he'd have it. He'd be born into that situation. I don't know that you take credit away from LeBron for seeking out that situation himself when Dan Gilbert so miserably failed to surround him with anything the first go-round in Cleveland. And as much as it took away a little bit Kobe's shine, seeing all that he could do playing with Shaq, in another sense, he's playing with a prime Shaq, and he's in his prime. That's, in terms of how high each guy's talents are pitched, there may never have been, or since, a combination like a prime Shaq and a prime Kobe.
Yeah, but you got to remember, Kobe grew into his prime. Kobe came in as a rookie. Kobe was a bench warmer. Then after that, Kobe was a sixth man before Kobe ultimately started. There was Eddie Jones and the Nick Van Exels of the world and others who were on the team when he had first arrived. So Kobe didn't arrive and wasn't a star and was a star from open and tap. He had to mature and work through the Del Harris era. Let's not forget that as well. So there were some impediments to Kobe's success potentially that could have been there, but he worked his way through it.
All right, that'll do, guys. We got another storied franchise to get into. That will be the Cowboys. Zeke is ready to eat this weekend when he returns from his 6-game suspension, but is his head coach ready to feed him?